In this video, I'm going to be showing you how to set up a sheep farm in Farming Simulator 25. Let's get into it. Alright, so first thing we've got to do is set up a new game. So we're going to come into our save game options. We're going to go new farmer. We're going to start with $1 million, $0 loan, easy economy. We're going to start with the starter farm. So this is the farm you'll start with, and most people will start with. And then we're going to hit continue and load in. Now I've got some mods here, which I'm going to use probably one or two of them, but for the most part, this is going to be base game and mod free. So let's jump on in. All right, let's go. Okay, so we're just going to go standard character. You can change that later if you want. All right, so this is the farm as is. So let's jump into the build mode, get a bit of an aerial view of what we're looking at. So we own, actually, let's go out to the big map. This will be easier. So we own fields 5, 4, 3, and 2. Okay. Now to set up a sheep farm is pretty straightforward. We've got a little bit of infrastructure set up already. So let's just run over quickly. Actually, let's have a look at our starting equipment. So we can utilize a lot of the starting equipment. So we've got a couple, I think we've got 3 tractors, maybe 2. Okay, 2 tractors and a combine. So some of this stuff we don't need, but a lot of it we can utilize. All right, so let's have a look. So this looks a little bit different to my current farm, I'll be honest, on Riverbend Springs, but we should be able to utilize this area here, I think. So now you start with a cow barn or a cow pasture, which is what we're looking at here. Okay, but what we're going to do is we're going to get rid of this entire setup. Now it's up to you if you want to keep it, but there's better options for cow barns that are available later in the game. And this particular one, 25 cows, not really what we're going to be focusing on. So it's just best to get rid of it because we're going to put a pasture in the space where this is. Okay, so come in here, sell the cows. So we've got 3 animals, we'll sell them. Okay, now that they've been sold, we can jump into the build mode, enter demolition mode, hover over the pasture, and we can sell that for 7.5 grand. And then what we're going to do is we're going to utilize this area here to put in a dynamic pasture, which is going to give us increased capacity for our sheep barn. So let's run back out of here. So we've got a bit more room. So it's up to you how big you want to make this, but let's jump back into the build mode. Scroll down to animals, tab across to sheep. Okay, and we've got a couple of different options. So we've got the pasture, we've got the sheep barn, this guy here, and then we've got the sheep barn small and sheep barn large. So we're going to go to the sheep barn large. Okay, purely because this has got a bigger feed area. I mean, you could go smaller or bigger. It depends on what you want to do. Another thing you could consider is dedicating an entire field to this pasture, which we could very well do if we really wanted to ramp up our production. I mean, we could even go in this area down here. There's quite a number of spots where you could put this. So what we're going to do, I think, is we're going to go to the large. And we're going to put it in place of where, you know what, actually I'm thinking now that I'm talking about it, maybe we should utilize this entire field and we can utilize that. The other thing I want to be mindful of is this road that comes through, because one thing we want to do is basically put this in and then not have to move it. I mean, another option for a barn is down this way. Okay, but you've got to clear out some trees. You could put it in field 2 and then just map the whole field around basically where you want to put it. But let's just go through with our original plan and we'll keep our fields. Okay, so we're just trying to maximize our usable land here, but we are going to put in a small dynamic pasture, and you'll see what I mean in a second. Now, a couple of things you've got to consider here. So with this particular barn, you can see the little icon in the front there. That's where the food goes. Then you've got this yellow crosshatched section on the corner here. That's where the wool pallets are going to spawn. So what I want to do is I'm going to position this just off the pathway a little bit and parallel to this grass, basically just kind of there, just so we've got enough access to drive in and out on the front without being too cramped, for lack of a better word. And then obviously we've got our animal dialogue box on the left hand side that you can see. So that's pretty much it. So we're happy with that position. So once you're happy with the position, once you hit X to place the item, you've basically initiated the construction and you can't back out, because if you adjust any of these future steps, you'll basically kind of mess it up and you might stuff up what you want to do here. So what we're going to do is we're going to place items and we're going to hit with an option. Do you want to customize the fence for this sheep barn? So we're going to hit yes, but if you go no, it basically just retains the orange fence, the small orange fence on the outside, and you can't increase the pasture size. Okay, which is the whole point of the dynamic pasture in the first place. So we're going to go, do you want to customize the fence for the sheep barn? We're going to go yes. Okay, so you can see the fence is now removed, and we've got a little fence build icon that comes off. Now what we can try and do is build around these trees. Now I haven't actually tested this, so this could be something you do try, all right? Because then that's just going to boost your overall land size. But I think because there's too many trees and too much collision potential, what we're going to do is we're just going to keep it pretty standard. Okay, now you have to be careful here, because every time you move into an area, it might be restricted, such as that. Okay, so what's happened there is I've built too close to that tree. So what I want to do here is push R3, delete last segment. Okay, and now that gets me out of trouble, so to speak. So now what we want to do is kind of hug the area where we were before. So you just got to move your cursor around until you get it to play the game. Still too close. The fence, cancel creation of custom fence. No. So you got to be very careful when you're doing this, because if you mess it up, you'll basically be stuck with potentially what you don't want. So what I'm going to do is go from there. Actually, I'm going to delete last segment. So I'm just going to come off until I get, yep. So these trees are problematic, okay? So the closer you build to the trees, the more risk you have of collisions and not being able to build on where you want to build. So just be aware of that. Now this is not perfectly symmetrical by any means, but we're just trying to maximize our land area. Okay, and let's just go parallel with this tree sort of thing. And then we'll give ourselves a little bit of margin up to now. What you can do here, and what I will do, is I'm going to come back a little bit and give myself some space to get a forklift in, and you'll see why later. So probably about there, and then try and eyeball this so it's relatively square, and then we're going to terminate at this point here. Okay, so this is going to conclude the mapping of the fence. So if I hit X now, we get hit with another option. Do you want to plant a meadow for the sheep barn? And we're going to go yes. Now what that has done, if we just circle out of that, it's placed down a sheep barn pasture with meadow grass. Okay, so that meadow grass is now going to function as feed. If we didn't plant the meadow grass, we would just get regular field grass. And if we come into here, and actually if we come into our animal menu, the meadow hasn't come in yet because we've got to sleep for one day. Okay, but the meadow is there available as a feed source. Okay, so that is the building. So a little bit of a process, advisable to save your game, play around with certain locations where you might want to put it. But the main considerations are going to be this spawn area for your wool, feed access. So you can see we've got nice access. This barn is actually taller, so you can get your tractors in and out quite comfortably. You've got a little storage area here if you want to use it. And then if you're using an animal trailer, you've got access to the animal dialogue box just here. So you can go and purchase sheep as you desire. Now, this has now got 90 capacity, so I'm not quite sure what the original capacity is. It's probably not much more than 90, but we can have 90 sheep in here. Obviously, if you want to have more sheep, you can put the pasture in a bigger area. So like say if we were to do this, we could basically take all of, field 5? So all of field 5 potentially, and turn that into a pasture. So you can have a pretty massive pasture. You can even take all of this area. You could take all of field 2. Just depends on what you want to do, all right? But just to give us a little bit of room and obviously retain some of our fields, that's what we're going to do. Now we've got some canola here that is ready to harvest. So what we're going to do is we're going to utilize this canola. So we're going to grab our harvester. So we are focusing on sheep farming, but we've still got some supplementary activities that we can be doing while we set up for obviously the sheep. So let's get this harvest underway. We might as well utilize it. Now can I get connected, hopefully? All right, let's go on and get underway with this. So we're going to utilize a worker for this purpose, and then we are going to get some sheep. Okay, so let's go and detect the field, hold down circle. Okay, happy with that. Let's hit OK and send the worker off. All right, now there's a couple of different ways you can get sheep. So we can trailer them in, which we're not going to do. We're just going to go in and we're going to buy, let's start with, if we can get into the animal dialogue. We're going in and we're going to buy some. So we've got sheep and goats in the same menu. So there's only one breed of goat. Okay, these guys won't produce wool, they'll produce milk. So you can put goats in here, but we're going to focus on wool production as our main source of income. Now you've got 4 breeds: Landrace of Bentheim, Stenschaft, Swiss Black Brown Mountain, and you've got Black Welsh Mountain. So they're all cosmetic in difference, but essentially the wool is the same. The care is the same, production's the same, everything is the same. So you just pick the ones that you like. Now we're going to go, well, potentially I would just go maximum sheep straight up. So let's buy 90 sheep. Okay, so this is going to give us full barn of sheep. Okay, now you might think, why would you buy 90 straight up? Well, basically it's just going to allow our grass, our meadow grass in particular. So it takes a month for it to come in. So when we sleep for the next month, if we look at this, the meadow grass will come in, and then they'll be productive. Okay, so once we get this canola up and we sleep through till September, that'll move us into the next planting opportunity. All right, now let's grab this guy. So any tractor will be fine. Let's go and grab our seeder, and what we're going to do is we're going to go plant grass. Okay, now the main feed for the sheep is grass. So if we get some grass fields happening, that's going to be our main feed source. So let's go hook up our seeder. Now you can plant grass pretty much any time. You only have to plant it once, and then it's pretty much good to go. So you got some seed sitting there as well, just on the side near the red barn. So let's go and fill that up with this guy. So we should get a full hopper of seed, or close enough. Now this should plant grass, I'm pretty sure. So if you hold L1 and cycle through a triangle, you'll get to the different crop types. So we just went past grass, and there we go. So we got grass. Now field 4 should be cultivated and plowed and ready to plant. So it needs lime, but we're not going to worry about the lime. We are going to get in position, and we're going to get cracking with this seeding pretty much straight away. So we're going to hire a worker for this purpose. So onto the field, hold down circle, make sure we're happy with the pattern it's going to draw or plant, hit OK, and then hire that worker. And what we're going to do is we're going to check out field 3, which I think is some wheat, which might also be ready to harvest. Yep. So we're going to do this guy next, and then let's go and have a look at field 2 quickly, see what's in there. And then what we're going to do is we're going to plant grass in both of those fields in preparation for ramping up our grass production. And then field 2 is basically empty, so we can utilize that for something else as well. All right. So pretty much with our starting equipment, we've pretty much underway with what we want to do. Now we'll get this guy here. So we're going to need to grab our grain trailer. So let's go and do that, which I think is around here somewhere, if I'm not mistaken. Could be in this building. I mean, a lot of this stuff you can just go and buy, but this is pretty much just for new players starting, give you a good sort of leg up, foot in the door, so to speak, on how to get started with the game. So let's go and grab our trailer. Now basically any trailer will do. Let's get connected. So we're going to use this to cut our grain and get our crop picked up. So still got a bit to go actually. So let's check in on how this guy's traveling. So we'll let him go. Right, let's have a quick chat about the sheep. So obviously these guys are sitting there not doing anything at the moment, so they're unproductive. So basically what will happen is when we sleep, they'll start to consume that meadow grass, and then we will move into the next phase. And the grass planting can be done August, September, October, November, March, and be harvested pretty much any time. Okay, so that's our plan. So what we'll do is we'll let these guys do their thing, and then we'll come back in once we've got the crop planted, we've got the grass in the ground, and then we'll go from there. Alright, see you in a few minutes. So we just finished off with the canola harvest, and we've just finished planting grass in field number 4. So you can see that grass is now planted. We've finished up with the canola harvest, so let's get this guy off the field and unload it into our grain silo. And then what we're going to do is we're going to go harvest the wheat. So we're still in August, we haven't moved forward in months yet. So we're just going to get the crop out of the ground that we can and utilize that potentially in the future. So if you are starting the game from scratch, like we are here, with a focus on sheep, this will just give you a few options sort of down the track. So let's get this stuff unloaded, so we can pretty much pop out directly into our grain silo just here. Obviously the header is in the way here, but we can get that unloaded there. So let's just get that unloaded, and then we'll come back in and we'll go and harvest that wheat. See you in a sec. Right, that's the canola into the silo, so that's our storage. So we can come and we can retrieve that at any time with one of our trailers and take it for sale. But for right now, we're just going to leave it as is. One thing I'm going to do is quickly adjust the timescale. So we come down into the settings menu, find our timescale. We're going to knock it back to 2 times speed. You can pretty much put it on whatever speed you want, but I like to have a little bit more of a slower timescale just so I don't run out of daylight. Does happen from time to time, but just something to consider. Alright, what we're going to do here is we're going to... So sometimes what you can do is you can enable straw swath. So what we're going to do is we're just going to go straight in and not worry about the straw. So hopefully this guy will do his thing. We're just going to get the weed up because the sheep don't need straw, okay? So we're not going to make it a focus. And while that's happening, what we're going to do is we're going to put another field of grass in. So just here, let's just see if the worker can carry out this operation. So we hit reset. Okay, hire the worker. Okay, so we need to cultivate first. So let's go and grab our cultivator, get this ground cultivated, and then we'll come back in. So let's just get this seeder off the ground. So we'll just leave the seeder here. Go find our cultivator, which I think is just in the barn there. So let's go get connected. Now some seeders will allow you to cultivate and seed and fertilize all in one pass. However, that one does not. Hence why we need to cultivate as a separate step with this guy here. So this is just your standard cultivator. It's a mandatory step after harvesting, so you can then go and plant another crop. Okay, so we come into the field now, hit circle. Yep, so we're going to just reset, make sure that's all good. Hit OK. Hire a worker for that purpose. Okay, let's check in on this guy. So we're not getting huge yields out of this wheat, but it is something that we can look to utilize. Now, one thing I am going to do, and I think is worth doing, now this is totally optional for you guys, but we're going to go grab a plow, and what we're going to do is we're going to join fields 4 and 5 together to turn them into a big grass field, okay? Because there's a couple of things we can do with grass, which not only are supplementary to sheep, all right, but we can use it to make hay, we can use it to make silage. There's a number of things we can do with it. So let's quickly head over to the shop. I'll throw on a quick time lapse while we drive over there. We'll grab a small plow and then we'll come back in. So enjoy the tunes. I'll see you over there. Right, here we are at the shop. Okay, so this is the first time you've come to the shop. The shop is basically the central location where you buy implements, tools, and what have you. Okay, so this is the shop here. The shop icon is just here, so you can enter it one of two ways. You can come into the shop menu this way, or you can press options. Sorry, not options. The big touchpad on PS5 in the middle will get you to the shop menu. Okay, so basically in the same place. Now what we want to do is we want to come in to, well, we want to look at our tractors first. So if we come into prices menu, tab over to vehicles, so pushing right on the D-pad, you can see we've got our equipment line up and it tells us what horsepower we've got. So we've got a Challenger MT635 and it's got 160 horsepower. And if we scroll down to the JD 3650, it's 116 horsepower. And then there are two starting tractors. Okay, so the Challenger is 160 horsepower. So that means if we're looking for a plow, we can have up to 160 horsepower. Now, soil cultivation is what we want. You want to come into plows, and then we want to find one in that ballpark. So that one's 85. That's a mod, lizard subsoiler. So we've got the AgroMaz, so POV 65XL for 160 horsepower. So let's go ahead and I think what we'll do is we'll lease this. So do you want to lease this for $816? Yes, because we're only going to be doing some temporary plowing. And then we also need a front weight. So let's just go and grab any old front weight. So what I've done there is I've just hit combinations, pushing R3, and we're just going to grab the John Deere 900 kilo. So we'll lease that as well. Okay, so there are our implements, plow, and weight. Okay, now I don't think this tractor has a weight to start with, which it does not. Now the leasing costs will get charged per day and then per work hour for use of that machine. Okay, now we're going to recoup the cost of this pretty quickly. So let's grab our weight. The reason why we're grabbing a weight is just because if we've got a heavy implement on the back, sometimes the front steering can be a little bit out of whack. So you can test and see if the weight's going to be an issue. But this one, being a smaller tractor, it's a little bit floaty, but we're not going to use this for plowing. This is just for retrieval. And then we're going to change over to the Challenger. So realistically, if you brought the Challenger over here, that would be probably more wise. X to fold plow, that'll bring it up into a bit more compact, transportable configuration. So let's head back to the farm and then we'll come back in, we'll get this guy set up, and we'll go from there. So enjoy the tunes, I'll see you over there. Alright, here we are, so let's get in position. Right, I just want to check the horsepower on that cultivator. So the cultivator that we do have is the John Deere, so it's 110 horsepower, so it's the 980. So what we're going to do is we're going to switch out those two. So let's go, can I unfold this? I've got to unfold the plow. Alright, let's try that. Okay, so let's unfold. Okay, let's drop off this front weight, and then we'll jump into the Challenger. Okay. And the reason why we're doing this is because obviously this is more powerful, so it's better suited for the ploughing operation we're about to do. Our harvester looks to be still operating, and then we'll use the other John Deere because it's got 116 horsepower or whatever we said it had, so it's better suited for cultivating. So let's get these guys switched out, and then we'll come back in. Now it doesn't matter if you drive over what you've already seeded at this stage. I've got crop destruction turned on, but that only becomes relevant once the crop has grown to a certain height. But grass is not affected by crop destruction. Okay, so there's a couple of benefits to grass. One, you only have to plant it one time and then it will regrow forever. And two, it cannot be destroyed by crop destruction. So if we hire a worker, I'm pretty sure this guy, well, I would have thought they would continue, but the worker will figure it out hopefully. Best thing is to just, if you've got a worker doing a job, just leave them do it. Don't disrupt them. So we'll see what happens there. Okay, we've got a front weight connected already on the Challenger, and we've got our plow connected. Okay, so this plowing that we're about to do is optional. You don't have to do this, but I think it's worthwhile mentioning, and particularly while we've got a couple of other things on the go, we can make it work. Now, so basically what you want to do is you want to lower the plow, okay, and now what you'll notice is nothing's happening to our non-field area, so our verge field. We're just getting a little bit of a plowed state on our, you can see that there, on our already seeded area. So what we do, zoom out a little bit so we can see this a bit clearly. If we go allow create fields by pressing L1 and triangle and now drive, you can see we're actually joining and extending the field out, and we're plowing through where the little road track thing is here. Now if you don't want to do this, you don't have to, but basically I like to do this because it extends our field, gives us more grass yield, and if we were to put another crop in here, it makes life a little bit easier because we can increase our yield. So what I'm going to do is I'll throw a quick time lapse on while I do this area, and then we'll come back in once completed. So actually what I'll do is, before I get to the end, obviously we want to let's go limit to fields, lift the plow. Anywhere where you don't want plowed, obviously don't leave the plow down. Okay, so you just want to be mindful of that. Once it's in the ground and you've got allow create fields on, it'll just keep plowing. So let's go allow create fields, lower plow indefinitely. So you can see that there. It's a little bit, I've overshot the field a tiny bit, but that's not too bad. So it does take a little bit of practice, but you can finesse it over time. Alright, so I'm just going to do a couple little quick little head-ins here, and then we'll whip up, do the other side, then we'll come back in. So I'll finish this area and then we'll come back in. So enjoy the tunes, see you in a few minutes. Alright, so there we go. So most of that area is all now ploughed out. So let's lift the plough, turn on limit to fields, and then what we're going to do is we're going to whip back around. We're going to grab our grain trailer, and then we are going to unload our first load of wheat. Okay, so we've got our cultivation still happening. We've got a bit of seeding to do, so we'll also take care of that in a second. So let's just drop this plough off, hook up our trailer. Now obviously the starting equipment's quite small, so we are going to look to utilise some bigger stuff shortly, or in due time, let's say, because obviously the bigger the equipment, the more jobs we can get done far more quickly. So let's just, and obviously we can make more money, so let's just get this guy unloaded. Now if I give this worker a bit more room, he should start driving again, so we can pipe out on the go potentially. Okay, don't know what's happening there. I think what's happened here is I bumped him Okay, not ideal. Anyway, we'll go and unload this partial load, and then we'll come back in. So the workers are a little bit temperamental, so just be aware of that. But you can unload on the go if you pull up alongside the grain cart. Obviously we can't drive on the crop because the pipe would be on the wrong side and we'd be running over the wheat. So what we're going to do is we're just going to drop this load off, just so we can keep the combine moving for now. So we should come up here, get the dump wheat icon, R1 on triangle. That'll just tilt that back. Okay, good to go. Our cultivator should still be just about done, I would have thought. Let's have a look. Yeah, still got a bit to go. So the obvious benefit here is, obviously there's a bit of work in getting the grass planted in the first place, utilising the base game machinery and the starting machinery. The problem is this guy is, actually what I'm going to do is turn off the worker. I'm just going to cultivate this myself because the worker is just taking too long. Okay, so what we're going to do is lower the cultivator. All we're going to do is drive over the field, making sure we get all the areas we need. So what I'm going to do is I'll throw on a time lapse while I do this, and then we'll come back in once we are completed. So enjoy the tunes, see you in a few minutes. Right, one thing I will mention here is when you're cultivating, you can basically overlap where the field is not. So like our plowed area on the right versus the grass area on the left. So we can drive the cultivator on there all day long and nothing will happen to that ground. It'll only impact the field, which is the farmable field in the middle. Okay, so we're just making sure that we get all the edges, which we pretty much got everything there. You can still see a little bit of field here. So we'll quickly whip around, we'll grab this section, and then we'll do the top end. Now obviously if you do this manually without using the worker, you may have to do a couple of extra passes, but the worker will do a specific route. Generally it's pretty time efficient, but it can take a little bit of time. So I just want to demonstrate the alternative of driving it yourself. Okay. Now we don't need to cultivate where it's already been ploughed because we can seed it directly into that. So I'm not going to worry about getting into that area too much. So let's just focus on this little patch here, and then we're going to head over to field number 3 and we're going to start cultivating. Actually no, we're not going to start cultivating because it'll impact our harvest potentially. So let's just get this last little bit. What we will do is we'll hook up our seeder and we'll start seeding field 2. So if we look at this now, it's owned by us, needs lime, and we should have grass growing. Yes, we do. Okay, so let's get our cultivator lifted. So lift cultivator. So we'll get our cultivator lifted. We'll go and switch out for the seeder. And we're going to start seeding field 5, which will, and the seeder will detect the field. I mean, the worker will. And then we can move into the next stage. So let's put this guy over here, sort of out of the way. Okay, I'm going to grab our front weight because I think that might be wise just to put that on. Helps our steering out a little bit. Then we've got to go empty our grain cart, so we'll go and do that. Okay, so let's not run over the weight. Now obviously as we grow and develop, we'll get some more efficient tractors, bigger, more powerful, faster, that type of thing. Alright, so let's head over to the field. Okay, so now what we're going to do here is we're going to hold down activate worker, so circle, and then it's detected most of the field. Okay, and what we're going to do is hit reset. Okay, hire the worker for that purpose, and then that worker will start seeding grass. So just make sure that is actually grass. Yep, it's going to start seeding the grass into that field. So what we'll do now is we'll head over, get our combine emptied, and we've got one little patch of crop in the middle we still need to sort out. So we'll try and do an unload on the go here, even though it's only going to be a short run. But if we drive up alongside here, okay, the worker probably won't recommence until it's empty, unless that worker stopped, which is highly possible. Let's have a look. Yeah, there's still a worker in there. So I think once it's emptied, yeah, so now it's emptied, it'll continue on, and we can go dump this load of wheat, and then we'll go from there. So let's go and do that. Now the other thing we need to consider is what we're going to do with field 2. So at this stage we could sell field 2 if you wanted the extra cash, and you'll get some money for it, or you could plant a crop into it, or you could put grass into it. Okay, what I think we're going to do for the purposes of the tutorial is we're just going to leave it empty for now. Alright, but if you're watching this as a playthrough and you want to set up your farm with a focus on sheep and wool production, you could pretty much put whatever you want in there that you can utilise with your combine for harvesting purposes. So you could do some more wheat, you could do canola, whatever you wanted to do. Or you could just put grass in there and double down on your grass production, but it's entirely up to you. Alright, so you can see here our seeder is actually seeding all the areas. So if we just jump out quickly, it's seeding over that ploughed section. Okay, and if we go in and have a look, we've got growing, 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 and then not growing. So it's basically detected where the seed needs to go, and it's putting the seed in the ground. Now another way we can check this is through our crop map. So if we come back into our main menu, check our crop types, so you can see green signifies obviously grass seed. Okay, if we tab over to the side, we can see what has been planted and what is growing. So we've got a whole bunch of grass planted that we need to fix up. Everything's ploughed by the looks of it. Looks like our harvester has missed a section of wheat. So let's just go and sort that out quickly. Okay, turn that, lower that down. So what I'll quickly do is we'll get this section of wheat up, and then we'll come back in. Alright, there we go. So let's turn that off, get the header up. We'll go and unload this into our grain tank, and then we'll come back in. Alright, let's get that unloaded. Alright, unloaded. Let's get back to the farm. Alright, I'm just going to park up out of the way for the moment. Let's go have a look at our fields. So what have we got? So we've got our grass growing. We've got our wheat harvested. Now basically what I'm going to do now is I am going to plow and join fields 3 and 4. So this is an optional step, like I keep saying, but what you'll see as the end result is we will have one big grass field, which is pretty useful for when we come to create our grass windrows and all that sort of stuff. So what I'm going to do is I'll throw on a quick time lapse while I join this together, and then we'll come back in and we'll seed this entire area, and then we'll move on to the next step. So let's go allow create fields, lower plow, and we're just going to drop that in. Now it doesn't matter if it's not perfectly aligned. Obviously if you take a little bit more care and attention, you'll get pretty good at aligning it up, but there's going to be a little bit of overlap either way, but you get the idea. Alright, I'll throw on a time lapse, I'll do this, and then we'll come back in. Enjoy the tune, see you in a few minutes. So what I just did there was touch up the sides with the painting tool, okay? So obviously there and over here, just to align the field edges a little bit more. So obviously if you're concerned about joining fields, then don't do it, just use the original fields that are here. But I just like to do this because you get a little bit of extra farmable land, like I keep talking about. It allows us to have a bigger grass field, okay, by combining fields. Alrighty, so this guy is doing his thing. So we'll come back in once the rest of this is all seeded. And then we'll move on to the next step of the video. So see you in a few minutes. Alright, so we finished planting our grass field. So let's get this guy off the field and we'll just go and inspect the field to make sure we're 100% planted. So we come into the options menu, into the crop menu. So you can see we've got our field here, all grass. Everything is looking pretty good. So let's just go and inspect the field. So we should have grass growing, got the plow on the way, which we'll return in a minute. Got a couple of sections there where we have plowed but nothing's grown, so that shouldn't be an issue, but if it does become an issue, we'll fix that up later. So there we go. So our grass is planted, so we can move on. So what we're going to do now is we're going to return this plow because we don't need it anymore. So let's do that first and foremost. So what we can do is find the tool, which is right in front of us just here, and we can go return. So it's now been returned. Okay, cool. So we've got our grass planted, we've got our sheep barn loaded with sheep ready to go. It's now time to sleep. So the way we sleep, one thing I will mention too is I've adjusted the time scale down to 0.5. That's to slow time right down, because obviously the grass seeding and the field prep took a little bit of time. So if you're running out of time through the day, basically adjust your time scale down so you get more, you can slow time right down. All right, so we're going to sleep till 8 AM the next day, which will get us into, August into September. And then we should have a growth state on our grass, hopefully. So let's have a look. So go and inspect the field. So grass is growing. We can see that there. Now we've got a couple of sections that we haven't seeded correctly for some reason. We will sort that out. Now this is going to be part of sustaining our sheep operation, and we can do a couple of things with this grass, which we'll get to. Okay, let's go and check out the animals. Now we should have a meadow grass populate, which it has. So you can see our meadow grass feed is now 10,259 litres. Okay, and that's going to sustain our sheep. So our sheep will eat basically the food in a hierarchy basis. So we've got grass at 100%. Currently got no grass in there. And we've got meadow of 100%. So 100% capacity, 100% effectiveness. So basically grass that we are going to plant and harvest, which we have here, gives the same effectiveness as the meadow grass that is in here. Okay, so the sheep will start to consume it, and their wool will start to spawn here, which we can then start to do things with. Okay, so let's just check in on, yep, so basically we've had them for 1 day, so one more day the foods come in, the effectiveness will start to ramp up. So what we will start to see in October is some wool potentially. Okay, let's check on the growth map quickly. So this will tell us, so obviously our growth menu shows us that we're dark green, so we're getting pretty close to harvest. So basically the harvesting window for grass is all year round. Okay, now I don't think you can harvest in the snow for obvious reasons, but pretty much this is now a set and forget crop. So we can cut this multiple times, we can harvest the grass off it multiple times. That's the whole point of going to that effort to put the grass in for the first place, and then we can stockpile feed for our animals. Now we've got, what do we say, 90 sheep, something to that effect. Let's just double check in here. Yeah, 90 animals. Okay, so we're going to be able to sustain them quite comfortably with that large grass field. So let's go ahead, head back to the farmhouse. Let's sleep again. Now, one other thing I forgot to mention, which I will do because I want to get a bit of cash flow, is you can consider putting down a income generator. So if we go to productions, solar panel, so a large solar collector. Now this is a good thing to put on the farm if you don't want to use cheats, of course. Okay, so we're just going to pop one here. This will give us about $4,000 a month in income. Okay, now because obviously we've slept for 1 day already, but multiple days sleeping, we're getting a bit of cash flow on the farm. Take about 2 years to pay off, but it'll also supplement any leasing that we have. Now we don't have any leasing currently, but you'll see what I mean as we go to sleep now. So if I go to sleep, we should get about $4,000 in property income, and that'll be from that solar panel. So that's an optional step, but I recommend putting at least one down just to help cover some costs, and then it'll pay for itself over time. And if you are going to put them in early in your playthrough, so you can pay them off sooner and then start to reap the cash flow benefits. So you can see that there, 3,558 property income. That's from our solar panel. Okay, so that's covering our property maintenance and any other costs. Used vehicles we haven't really spoken about, but if you see a tractor in here or something that takes your fancy, you can pick them up. But what we're going to do is we're going to focus on just utilizing our current staple of equipment, because obviously everybody gets different used vehicles. So I'm going to show you what you need to get and when. It is required. Okay, so grass is ready to harvest. So that grass is now ready to be cut, and we've also got some wool. Okay, so you can see the wool here. So a full pallet is about 1,000 litres, 100 kilos. Now I can pick this up because I've got the liftable bale and pallets mod, but your game, if you don't have that mod installed, you won't be able to pick them up. Okay, so just something to consider, but I'll show you how to forklift them and move them around when the time comes. Let's check in on our meadow grass. So our meadow grass is obviously depleted quite quickly. So 90 sheep have consumed 5,000 litres of grass feed overnight. So now what we need to do to sustain these guys is we need to get this grass cut and turned into either grass bales or loose product. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the Challenger. We're going to go grab a mower. Now, do we have a front weight on this? Yeah, so this looks to me we can only have we can't have a front attachment. So what we're going to do is we're going to utilize this guy. Okay, we're going to disconnect our seeder, so we'll keep that. We're going to disconnect our front weight. Now we've got about 116 horsepower on this guy, but we're going to utilize this guy for some mowing. Okay, now you can upgrade your tractors. Okay, and if I was playing this in my own playthrough, I would definitely do that. But what we're going to do is we're just going to stick with the base game equipment for this tutorial, but definitely feel free to upgrade the tractor if it's you don't want to go too big because it's overkill, but something in the medium range, 200 horsepower-ish would be plenty. Right, so let's head over to the shop, we'll grab some equipment, and then we'll come back in. So I'll throw on a quick time lapse while I drive over there. Enjoy the tunes. Right, here we are back to the shop. So let's head on in, and we're gonna grab a mower. Okay, if that's the first item we're gonna grab. So let's go into our shortcut menu. Okay, so basically what you want to do is you want to come down to grassland care or grassland category, which is this guy just here. You want to go into mowers, okay, and you've got a couple of different options. Okay, so you've got Kun GMD, so that will go on the front, and then you've got the counterpart, which is the GMD 8730FF, which will go on the back. Okay, and that'll be a 60 horsepower tractor, so it's pretty much right within our scope for what we want to do. So what we're going to do is we're going to buy this outright, because we're going to be using it quite a lot. Okay, and we've obviously got the money there. Okay, so there we go, there's our two mowers. So let's get these guys connected. Okay, so there's the back mower, and here's our front mower. Right, so let's cruise back to the farm, and then we'll get stuck into this first cut of grass. So I'll throw a time lapse on while we drive over there, and then we'll come back in. See you in a minute. Alright, here we are, so we're at the field. So a couple of options. We can obviously cut this ourselves. We can use GPS, or we can activate the worker. So let's have a look at all the options. Okay, so we've got our automatic working option. Okay, so that's with the AI worker. Or we can use steering assist, which gives us basically the same pattern, but the option to drive it ourselves. So what we're going to do is we're going to go steering assist. We're going to hit OK. Okay, that's going to activate the lanes, so you can see that there. Now this is basically the same path that the worker follows. However, it's going to allow us to basically plug in to that and allow us to do the work. So what we're going to do is we're going to unfold the mower. So we've got the mower on the front. So L1, square to turn it on, circle to lower it. Okay, so that's the front mower down. Then we want to change to our tool. So control group, press triangle. Now we're onto the back control group. Push L1 and X to unfold the back mower, square to turn it on, so you can see that there, and then circle to lower. So now we're basically ready to go. So what's going to happen is the drive lanes are going to become active. Okay, and what we're going to do is actually we'll go activate lane, press circle. So now we're cutting on a lane. Okay, Now I'm suspecting this tractor is going to be too weak, potentially driving 2 of these mowers, which is going to be a problem. So even though the horsepower requirements are met, it's something you need to be aware of. Right, let's have a look at, so let's get this guy off the field actually. Okay, so slightly problematic. Okay, so even though it'll be the rear mower, I think for sure. Let's just have a look at what we can do here. So this guy, that front weight is permanently fixed, it would appear. Okay, so basically what we need to consider is either getting a new mower or changing our mower to one of these side mounted jobs, which I'm not super keen on. Actually, let's get an upgraded tractor. So obviously we'll put the solar panel in. I think it makes sense that we get a bit more of a more powerful tractor. Now pretty much any of these medium guys will be fine, or you can go on the lower end of small. So I would probably recommend John Deere 6R is a good option. So we get 234 horsepower out of that, and that'll cover off pretty much what we need. But what we're going to do is, before we do that, we're going to look at the baling options, because the baler is going to be critical in the next couple of steps. Okay, and you want to choose a tractor that's going to obviously be able to handle a higher capacity baler potentially. So somewhere around the 250 horsepower mark. So the Kuhn SB129ID would be a good option for a square bale, and then your round balers 100 horsepower. Alright, so we want to get a tractor around 250 horsepower. I mean, the bigger the better, but so what are we looking at? Let's have a look at the largies. It's probably too big. Look, I'm probably just going to go, I reckon Valtra's pretty good. Valtra T series, so 271 horsepower. 234 Valtra S series. So pretty much any of these in the medium tractor category is going to be sort of where you want to go. I'm probably going to go the 6R, and we're going to go with the 230 horsepower engine upgrade. Actually, I just want to double check the balers, because the baler that I'll probably look to get is the square high capacity. And you basically want to make sure you got a little bit over and above what you need, so 245. Yeah, so I want to get something closer to 300, and then that'll basically cover us. So let's go back to our medium tractors and look for something with 300 horsepower, sort of for the best price. So I reckon probably Puma AFS Connect, the New Holland, the Valtra, or the Fendt. Let's go. How much is this guy? And we're going to lease this. So it's 303 horsepower. So let's lease that guy. So pretty much anything around the 300 horsepower mark, you got to be pretty safe. So let's just go this guy. Okay, yes. And our solar panel is going to cover the lease on that. Okay, so this is him here. Now obviously if you get a good used vehicle come up for sale, you could look to buy that outright, or you could purchase this. I mean, you could purchase a new tractor straight up, but obviously we haven't got the cash flow right now, so leasing is a good option, and this is going to pretty much cover us for what we need to do. So this is going to cover us for baling, for mowing, bale collecting, pretty much everything. So let's head back to the farm. We'll get our mower connected, and then we'll come back in. So I'll see you in a minute. All right, here we are. Let's get these mowers switched out. All right, so let's get our rear mower connected, and then our front mower should go on pretty comfortably. Right, let's head back to the field where we just started our cut, and we'll get repositioned, and then we'll carry on. Alright, so let's go turn mower on. First need to lower it, lower, turn on, unfold. Let's try that. Okay, front mower's going, so we want to unfold the mower. Now obviously if you do this with the worker will do all these steps for you. Okay, lower the mower, turn it on, so it should be operational. Okay, let's turn our GPS steering back on by holding circle, over onto steering assist, hit OK. Now that brings up our drive lanes. So you can see here now we're cooking with gas. We've hit circle, and now we're active on the GPS. Okay, so I basically don't have to do any steering inputs. This is now working its way through with the GPS guidance. Okay, so now obviously if you wanted to do this way, you can. So it tells you there where we've run out of room, and then you just reposition, and then you jump back in on the drive lane if you want to. Now you don't have to use the drive lane, you can just free steer it, and if you want to get rid of these steering lanes, you basically just hold circle, switch back to AI worker, hit reset, hit OK, and and then you just basically drive. Okay, so you can just eyeball it as you go. But basically now we're cutting the grass as per how we normally would. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to flick around here, just do this little section, and then I'm going to hand it off to the worker, and then we're going to carry on with some other jobs. So if we now hit and hold circle, the worker will detect the field, it'll work the headlands, and it'll start with the headlands. So if we go OK, hire worker, it may reposition, and then what should happen is it will carry on with the grass cutting. I'm just going to jump out here, just get out of the way, and that's now going to be automated by the worker. So that allows us to get it stuck into some other jobs, which what we need to do now is we need to get a windrower. So the Challenger tractor is perfect for this job. Okay, so we're going to go to the shop, we're going to go grab a windrower. So I'll explain what a windrower is, why we need it, and then we'll come back in. So let's head over to the shop and we'll get this organised. See you over there. Alright, here we are at the shop, so let's go get parked up and then we'll go have a look at these windrowers. Alright, so basically what a windrower is it takes the loose cut material, in this case the grass, so it's basically widespread across the field. What we want to do is we want to arrange it into nice neat rows. Okay, so we've got 120 horsepower requirement for that guy there. So what I prefer to do is to go as big as possible. So this was 120 horsepower requirement. It's got a 14 meter working width, which allows us to cover a bigger area much quicker. So let's grab this guy. What we're going to do is we are going to lease that. Okay, and our Challenger, which is just here, should have enough power to operate this as a worker. Okay. Now that should connect. Let's get it lined up first. Now you can use a smaller windrower if you like. I just prefer to use the bigger ones for the reasons I just described. But we'll head back to the farm and we'll get this guy underway in a second. And the last thing that we're going to need to get to round out this equipment package is a baler. Okay, so we'll come back in a second and we'll talk about baling options, pros and cons, what you want to consider, what you want to look out for, and then we'll go from there. So let's head back to the farm and then we'll come back in. See you in a minute. Alright, here we are back at the field. So how's our mower getting on? Okay, so still got a bit of work to do. So it looks like they're just starting to work on the second headland now. So that's fine. We'll leave that there for the moment. Right, so let's drop off this windrower and then we'll go and grab a baler potentially. So there's basically two types of balers. There's round balers and square balers. Round balers are generally cheaper. However, they require you to stop and start in terms of operation. Whereas the larger capacity square balers allow you to continually bale without stopping. Okay, so they're the two primary differences. So we'll head back to the shop, we'll grab a baler, and then we'll come back in. See you over there. Right, here we are back at the shop, so let's go and have a look at some balers. Okay, so in the baling section we've got square balers and round balers. So let's have a look at the squares first. So we've got the Massey Fergus MF 1840. So a couple of things to consider with balers is the bale size. Okay, so this will do a 120 centimeter square bale. Okay, whereas all these other guys will do 180 centimeter up to 240. Okay, liftable bales and pallets mod, that's just a mod that's installed, but all these other guys are base game standard. 245 horsepower, 250 horsepower, 275, so on and so forth. Okay, round balers on the other hand, lower horsepower requirements. Okay, much cheaper, and obviously some of these have got inbuilt silage wrappers. So the CR44143, the John Deere just here, that's got an inbuilt silage wrapper. So it basically takes the grass, wraps it into a silage bale. Okay, and then you can carry on with, you can take the grass and turn it into silage, which is a different process, which we'll talk about at another time. But basically my preference would be to go the Kuhn SB129ID, which is this guy. So it's a largish capacity square baler. Okay, 195 horsepower. So our tractor Our lease tractor will drive this comfortably, okay? And it's not too expensive to lease, so let's go ahead and lease that. Now we are covering most of the costs with the solar panel, okay, but we will be selling the wool and potentially turning it into fabric in the next stages, which fabric is actually quite valuable in the value chain. You can take the fabric and then turn that into clothes, but there's not much profit increase from fabric to clothes, so you're better off just focusing on the fabric and then getting that sold. So let's head back to the farm, and then we'll get set up with our windrowing, then our baling, then we'll stockpile this grass feed, and I'll show you how to move that stuff around, and then we can start to get into a rotation of growing the grass, harvesting the grass, feeding the sheep, getting a good steady wool supply, and then we can start making some money. So let's head back to the farm, and then we'll come back in. Alright, here we are. So we've got our baler, we've got our windrower, we've got our mowers, and we've got our tractor. So we've got a little bit of leased equipment here, okay, and we've got some wool that's already been produced. So you can pretty much take the wool as is, alright, and sell it. So if you want to check the price that you get for wool, come into your main menu, tab down to the prices menu, and then tab across if it's not already on there, and then go past your fruit types and into MISC, and then all the way down the bottom, because they're in alphabetical order, we have wool down the very bottom. So May is the peak price of 3,637 per litre, okay, or a low of 2,195, which is basically in October where we are now. So if you were to take the wool and do nothing else with it, that's going to be your costs, okay? But what we're going to do is we're going to take it to a spinnery, turn it into fabric, and then if we find fabric in the prices menu just here as a comparison, so you can see just here for fabric, we get a peak price of 15,497 versus 9,502. So a pretty substantial increase on the value of the wool by itself, okay? And then if we look at the rest of the value chain for wool and fabric, it's clothes, so it gets up to 32,894. But when we get into the spinnery, I'll show you the reason why you would want to stay away from clothes potentially, and just focus on the fabric, because you only get a very marginal increase on the value of the fabric, because obviously the recipe to create clothes consumes more fabric than it's potentially worth. However, the biggest jump in the production is taking the wool and turning it into fabric in the first place. So that's how we're going to make our money, okay? So let's just check in on the mowing. So almost there. So we'll let this guy finish up, and then we'll come back in with the next steps. All right, see you in a minute. All right, so our grass has just been cut, so you can see that there. And we are now ready to windrow. So let's go and get our windrower connected. So we'll get this guy off the field, and we'll just park him up there out of the way for the moment. All right, let's hook this guy up. All right, and then all we need to do is basically get positioned onto the field. So we're going to get the worker to get stuck into this straight away. So we'll drive down, just onto the field, hold down circle to activate our worker. Okay, so it's going to start with the headland, and then it's going to do the up and downs. That's fine. Okay, so let's get our worker hired. Now, basically what will happen is the worker should... We're going to take out our seeder, potentially. Now, this will get onto the field, choose its starting point, which will be somewhere, I'm assuming. Yep, just there. And now all that loose grass material is going to be windrowed into a nice straight line that we can come through and pick up with the baler. So you can see that there. Okay, so while that worker is doing that task, basically what we're going to do is we're going to hook up our baler to our leased tractor, okay, and then we're going to start baling this grass pretty much straight away. So let's just get ourselves maneuvered into a bit more free space. Now obviously you can organise your farm a little bit more of a tidy fashion than what I've done here, but it's pretty much personal preference. Alright, let's get our baler underway. Now the thing about baling you need to know is you can't hire a worker for this purpose, so it's something that you must do, okay, as a human player. So what we're going to do is we are going to let this guy get a little bit of a head start, and then we're going to come back in and we're going to follow it, and we're going to bale as we go. Now this guy's obviously struggling hard, so some of these workers will have problems like what we're observing right here. So if you see that, just cancel the worker out and then reactivate, and looks like they're going to reset comfortably. Alright, and now we're underway again. So we'll let this guy get ahead, and then we'll come back through with the baler, and we'll bale this windrowed grass, and we're going to use that for our sheep feed. So I'll see you in a minute. Let this guy get a bit underway. Alright, so now our windrower has begun windrowing the grass. Let's get this baling underway. So what we're going to do is position ourselves on the field. We will turn the baler on. So first need to unfold the baler, so you can see that there. Turn the baler on, and then we also need to lower the pickup, which will allow us to start picking up the grass. You can see that we're starting to fill the baler, and as we drive over the grass windrow, you'll see our grass level goes up, and then when the grass level gets to the predetermined size, I didn't actually change the size, so let's just double check what size we are. So 220 centimeters, so we'll just keep it at 220. So you don't want to change your bale size, you just want to keep it the same. You can see our bale has formed and is now starting to eject. So let's just pick up these bits here. Now it doesn't matter what route you take to pick these up, you can do it any old fashion. You can also use your GPS guided steering, so if we hold worker mode, get our steering assistance on and hit OK, what should happen won't work for the windrows. So sometimes if you set the working width correctly, it will basically align it as per the windrower. However, let's just go back to this way. Can we turn steering assist off? So basically it's easy just to drive over it like so, but it's up to you if you want to play around with it. Right, what I'll do is I'll throw a time lapse on, we'll get this baling done, and then we'll come back in, see you in a few minutes. Enjoy the tunes. All we'll do is we'll finish off this last little bit of baling. We'll get our windrower moved, as it's just holding up traffic up the end there, and then we'll go through the next step of moving these bales. So there's a couple of different ways you can do it, but using a bale loading trailer is probably the best way to go. So let's get this sorted out, and then we'll come back in. All right, let's get our windrower folded and off the field. So any grass that you've cut and you haven't picked up will just get picked up next time you do a cut of grass and windrow. Okay, so like over here where the worker started midfield. So this job you can obviously do by yourself as well. Okay, but I'm not too worried about getting every little bit of grass. It does basically stockpile on the field to a degree. You can't keep doing it forever, but finished up. So it depends if you want to be very thorough and get every little bit, but just for a practicality reason, I like to just do the best you can and then get the remaining later. Okay, so we've got 21 bales out of that field. Now what we can do here is we can unload a partial bale. So what we're going to do is turn off the baler, and then we're going to go triangle to unload, and then we're going to unload 2 partial bales. So they're not quite full size, but you can do partial bales with a square baler. You can't do partial bales with a round baler, so just keep that in mind. Right, let's head over to the shop. We're going to go grab a bale trailer, so I'm just going to park this up here, and we'll whip over to the shop, and then we'll come back in. Right, here we're at the shop, so let's go and have a look at Bale Trailers. So you want to scroll down to Bale Transport, I believe. So Baling Transport, what we're looking for is the Arkeson FSX 6372. So this will do 180 centimetre to 240 centimetre square bales, even though they're actually rectangular. It'll hold 14, okay? And that's the square bale trailer, so that's this guy here. Okay, base game, not a mod. So let's lease that. Or you can get a auto-loading trailer, which will do round and squares. So this is just one example, but check the mod hub if you're on console or PC for some options there. But this is the one I've been using currently. And just make sure you select the auto-loading option. Okay, and then basically all it does is when you're in operation mode and drive past the bales, it'll automatically load it without having to manually load it with this trailer, okay? But this trailer has sort of an auto-loading function, but it still has to go through a manual process, which I'll show you in a sec. So let's get connected. And let's head back to the farm, and we'll start loading these guys up. See you over there. Alright, here we are at the field. So all we need to do is L1 and square for operating position. Okay, and then we get the little loading bridge comes down. So we just drive up to the bale here, and it'll flick it into position, and then load it into a nice neat stack, which you'll see in a minute. So let's just do the next couple. So you can see that there, it goes through an animation. So the difference between this and the auto-loading trailer is basically it does this automatically, but without the advent of the white conveyor belt and then the stack mechanism, which you can see happening if we go side on here. On the red part of the trailer, it basically puts it into these nice, neat little bales, sort of like that. But yeah, auto-load is obviously a little bit more versatile. This is basically the next best thing, base game. So what we'll do is we'll throw a time lapse on, we'll get these guys off the field. So we've got 21 bales in total, and then I'll show you what to do with them after this. So sit back, relax, enjoy the tunes, see you in a couple of minutes. Alright, there we go, we've got 14 loaded up, so let's go and get these guys into storage. So basically what you need to do is you need to put it into transporting position, so L1 and square, okay? And then what we're going to do for our purposes is we're just going to stockpile them just here. Okay, so what we want to do is we want to go unload bales, so the unloading operation will basically look like this, so we'll get a good view. So it tilts the stacks up on their end, okay? Like so. Let's go unload bales here, and then we just drive out like so, lower the loading platform, and now we've got a stack of bales like that, okay? Now you can store them in a shed, you can store them out in the open, or you can store them in the bale and pallet storage building, which is another option for stockpiling bales. So let's just see if we can turn around here. Another thing you can do is you can delete this barn, so if you want to get a bit of extra cash, you can do that. Alright, let's get the rest of these bales up, and then we'll come back in, enjoy the tunes. Alright, that looks like all the bales for the moment, I believe. Let's just quickly jump into the build mode, cruise down this way. Yep, so you can see there's little bits of grass left here and there, but we'll get them next time. Okay, so let's get that transport position put away, and then we're just going to line up next to this stack of bales, and we are going to just offload them just here. So we go through the same process, unload bales, so just sort of so we can see here. Okay, unload bales here, like so, and let's lower the loading platform. Right, so the next thing we need to consider is how we're going to get these bales moved into the feed area. So the feed area is just here, so if we place the bales here, the feed will then go in. Now, you can use a front loader on a tractor, okay, which we're not going to do. So I don't even know if these tractors can take front loaders. They might be able to, but we're going to use a telehandler. Okay, so a telehandler is a pretty versatile piece of farm equipment that you may want to look to acquire. You can use a skid steer as well, okay, but telehandler for me is the preference. So we're just going to go the Meadow MLT 841, and we're just going to go standard configuration. We're going to lease that. Now the beautiful thing with the telehandler is if we check combinations, there's a whole bunch of tools that we can put on there. So forklift, attachment, universal bucket, bale wrapper, manure fork, bale fork, so on and so forth. So we're going to go and grab a bale fork as well. So we're going to hit lease for that. So we've got 2 items leased. Here they are here. So let's get connected. So you can see the benefit of the telehandler is you got the 4-wheel steering. Okay, so if we just have a quick look at that, gives you the ability to 4-wheel steer. Okay, which helps get you in and around obstacles, tight spaces much easier. Okay, so what we'll do is we'll cruise on back to the farm, and then we'll come back in and we'll load up the food into the sheep barn. So I'll see you over there. Alright, here we are. So we've got a telehandler, we've got our bale spike, and what we're going to do is, if I can remember how to operate the controls here, where are we? We want to push the boom out. So I think the boom, where's the boom? That's your up and down, that's your tilt. Okay, we're just going to boom out, as you can see, and what we can do is we can grab a bale off the top here. Okay, boom in, and then feed into the trigger. Okay, now that most of that should get consumed, so you can see that there the food's going in. If we check our food level in the animal menu, it should show that our feed has increased. So we've got 11,500 litres of grass. Okay, now the beautiful thing with sheep, and these barns in particular, is we can pile up a whole bunch of grass bales over the feed trigger. So we can basically stockpile feed in this area, okay, and not have to do this every day. And obviously you want to make sure you drive a bit more sensibly so you don't flip it. So whatever sort of stack you can manage, if you just sort of pile them up here, and you'll probably find they'll eat 1 bale per day, roughly speaking. So if we've got 6 bales in the trigger, that's going to work out to like 6 months worth of feed potentially. And we can cut grass every 2 to 3 months. Okay, so you're basically never going to run out of food. All right. Now, obviously, if you've got a bigger pasture or a bigger barn, so we'll just leave that there for now. Check our feed. These guys are going to sustain themselves. They're going to producing wool continuously. Their productivity is going to get up, and they're going to start reproducing sheep. So the name of the game here is to get this wool cranking, okay, and we're going to turn that into fabric. So we're pretty well set up now, so let's go ahead and sleep. So we want to go to the farm, so let's just walk over there. So we head over to the sleep trigger, sleep until November, and then we'll come back in. All right, here we are in November, so we're now into autumn, it looks like. Let's check our sheep. So you can see our animal feed hasn't changed, our meadow grass hasn't been touched, okay, because obviously we're able to sustain ourselves, but we are getting a good amount of wool starting to spawn, okay. So that is November. Let's check our grass field. So you can see our grass has started to grow back, okay. Now that'll probably be ready to cut again, and you can see the grass that we've already cut is just sitting there, okay. So that'll be able to be picked up next time. Now, we basically don't need any, if we've got other farming activities to do, we can. Let's just bump that pallet, get that food in there, or that bale, sorry, not the pallet. We're playing the game now, so we can get our sheep to produce wool. So let's go ahead and sleep now till December, and we'll come back in. So we should be able to get a cut of grass in December as well. So even with seasons turned on, we can still cut grass year round. Obviously, we can't cut in the snow, or at least I don't think so. So I haven't tried that, but generally speaking, probably can't. Okay, let's check the grass first and foremost. So 2 months. So 1 more month, I reckon we'll be able to get another cut of grass. We've almost got, so we've got stock of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Is that 5 or 6? 12 pallets. So we've got 12 pallets of storage here of wool. Okay, like I said, they're getting through about a bale per day. So let's go and throw in a couple more bales while we're here. So we're in low light conditions, so we can just turn the headlights on of our equipment. Now, if you knock the bales over, it doesn't matter. You can just push them into this area and stockpile them pretty much as high as you like, and you can end up just pushing them into position. So, like what I'm actually talking about here is I'll show you. So if we come around to this second stack here, get behind it, and then just try and push the stack over like that, and if you can time it, you can basically get this whole area to sort of fill. Okay, that's not going to work, so we'll just drive these guys around. So telehandler is pretty versatile, but it takes a bit of getting used to. Okay, so I'm just going to pop these on top, and obviously you've got one fell in, which is not ideal. Now I don't know if that will count to the feed trigger, but I guess we'll soon see. But you can always fish it out with the telehandler. It just takes a bit of skill. Reach over the rail and pull it out. But you have to wait for these guys to go down. Alright, so we're in December, grass is not ready to cut. We've almost got a full stack of pallets there. So let's head back over to the farmhouse and sleep again. So this will get us into January. So let's head over there. And we'll have a look at the crop calendar and just double check that grass planting and harvesting window, which I'm pretty sure it is year round. Okay, January, what do we got? Yeah, so harvest season for grass is year round, okay? So basically once it's planted, we can obviously, when it's ready to cut, which I'm pretty sure it'll be pretty close. Let's have a look. Okay, probably one more month. So that's what, 4 months? So every 4 months. We've almost got a full stack of pallets here. Our feed levels are still high because they're basically just getting sustained off of this stockpile of grass. And we've also got plenty there. So as long as you can basically sustain your animals, so having this grass this way, and obviously if we did field 2 as well, we'd have plenty of grass, but that's up to you if you want to do that. But yeah, more the better, especially if you're going to expand your sheep operation and really ramp it up. So let's head over and sleep again, and this way we'll have pretty much full storage of. One thing I will mention quickly is the capacity of the wool. So the capacity of the wool is nearly maxed out. So what you want to do is you want to make sure that your capacity is clear, because your animals, I believe, will keep eating the food, but they won't keep producing wool if there's no room for the pallets to spawn, okay? Or they may not. So here we go, no more wool places to spawn, no more wool pallets to spawn, sorry. So let's head over to our field quickly, have a look and see if we can cut this grass. So we're now into February, still growing, okay? So probably 1 more month. I mean, I would have thought it'd be ready to go not by now, but clearly not. Alright, so now we've got wool pallets. What do we do with them? So you can basically take them for sale. Okay, so if we check the price of wool, so if we scroll down to our MISC category all the way down to W, wool will fetch a price of $3,639 in May. Okay, now that's not really what we want to do. We can turn this into fabric, which is far more valuable. So if we look at the price of fabric, so let's scroll up to F. You can see there we get a peak price of $15,480 for fabric. So in order to get fabric, basically there's 2 options. Now there's a spinnery on the map. So if we have a look at Riverbend Springs, the spinnery is located over here. Okay, now if you want to buy this spinnery, so let's go ahead and visit it. So this is a production point available for purchase where we take our wool inputs. So just here, wool goes in, and then fabric will spawn here. Okay, now the only problem is you've got to cart it around. You do have a distribution function where you can basically distribute it to the next production chain. All right, but the downside is the transporting from here down where our sheep are all the way over here can be a bit problematic, and then taking our fabric from here over to where we want to sell it is also a little bit problematic. Okay, now if we come back to our farm, what we can do is we can position a spinnery in this area here. So if we want to buy one on our own land, so if we come into factories, come down to the spinnery, which I believe is this guy here. So this is one option. Okay, so that's one spinnery. Or you can go, where is it? There's another style of spinnery, I'm pretty sure. This guy here. Okay, so we can place a spinnery down on our own field. Okay, now obviously we can't place it here at the moment because we've got stuff in the way. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you this method. Okay, so let's get this area cleared and then we'll come back in. Alright, so we've got the area cleared. We're now going to put down our spinnery. Okay, so the one we decided to go with is this guy. A couple of reasons for that is we've got on this side here, if we have a look, we've got inputs for cotton and for wool. Okay, on this side. And if we rotate around, on the left hand side is where the fabric is going to spawn. Okay, now what we can do here is let's just go toggle snapping with L3. So we get this at 90 degrees. What we're going to do is line it up so these wool pallets can basically be pushed into the spinnery just here. So we're going to give ourselves enough room So somewhere about there. So I've got vehicle access either side, and we're going to place that down. Right, so here's the spinnery. So this is one we can own. Now you can do this, like I said, you can purchase the one on the map. But if you want to put one on your land, this is how you do it. So cotton bales and wool can go into here, okay? You can manage the production point from here, and then fabric will spawn over here, okay? So let's go in and have a look at the production. So we come into the production chains menu, and the spinnery shows as owned. Now if we go up to the top here, we've got the available productions on the map. Okay, so these are the ones that are available for purchase, okay? And what we'll find is there'll be the spinnery on the map, which is this guy here. If we want to visit it, this is the one we were at before, okay? So it just shows you quickly and easily what's available on the map. So different maps will have different productions, so on and so forth, okay? All right, so let's go and look at our available production. So where is it? Let's go back up to here. All right, so we've got fabric, cotton, fabric, wool, and both set to storing, okay? So to turn these on, you basically press activate and activate. Now we haven't got cotton, so we're going to turn the production off for cotton, but we're going to leave the fabric wool production as active, okay? Now there's obviously nothing in there at the moment because we haven't got any product in there, but basically as we put the wool in there, it'll go through its production cycles and start to produce the fabric. So let's go ahead and do that now. Now for this purpose, we're going to go and lease a forklift. Now you can use your telehandler for this, but I just prefer to use a forklift. So my forklift of choice is the Meadow M54, which is this guy here. Okay, reason being is because it's heavy duty and can lift a lot of weight because it's a larger forklift, as opposed to the Jungheinrich, which is this guy here, which is much smaller. Okay, so let's go ahead and grab this guy. Now it's totally optional. You don't have to do this. You can just go and grab a pallet fork for your telehandler. All right. When it comes to loading pallets, I just prefer to use a forklift because once you get handy with the forklift, you get used to the mechanics. It becomes pretty easy, pretty quick to do. And we're going to be covering our costs with the sale of fabric and our solar panels. And then if we can buy one outright or pick one up as a used vehicle or leased, it's up to you. So let's head back to the farm and then we'll get cranking on the production. See you over there. Alright, here we are back at the farm. So basically what we're going to do is, so as we left a little bit of space at the edge here, exactly for this purpose, what we're going to do is we're going to grab in just over here, and we're just going to push these pallets directly into the production. Now this usually goes a little bit more smoothly than that, so just adjust our forklift a little bit here. Yep. Drop that down so we can spread the forks a little bit wider. That might help. So let's get these other guys pushed in. Now obviously you can pick these up and move them over manually, but this just saves handling time, particularly if you are going to put the spinnery close to your wool production. Now obviously if they're in a different area, that's totally cool, but this is just one way you can speed up your efficiency. Alright, so we've got some wool in there. So we've got 11,000, let's say 12,000 litres of wool. Okay, we got our wool, our fabric set to storing, okay, which is what we want. Okay, and we want that fabric wool storing and active, which it is. Okay, and you can see that there, 3 wool will produce 1 fabric. Okay, so we jump out here, run around to the side here. The fabric will start to spawn over here. Okay, now what I would do here is I'm just going to check the grass. Obviously not ready to go yet, probably next month. We've got plenty of feed on for the sheep. Okay, so that is, check out animal menu. They're still all good, and if we did run low, they've still got some meadow grass to eat. So let's go ahead and sleep, get into March, and then we'll come back in and we'll see if we've got some fabric. Alright, here we are in March. Let's have a look. So animals are still good. Okay, let's head over to our spinnery. So we'll just leg it, and we should have some wool, should have some fabric, sorry, produced. Let's have a look. Okay, cool. So you can see out there we've got a pallet of fabric, so it's 1,000 litres. Okay, now I've got the liftable bales and pallets mod installed, hence why I can pick this guy up. But if you haven't got that mod installed, you won't be able to pick it up. You'll need to use the forklift. So that's what's going on there. All right, let's go and have a look at our feed for the sheep. So you can see that that's just sitting there, floating. Okay, so we've still got plenty of wool in stock. Looks like plenty of feed. Let's see how much wool has been produced. So you can see almost overnight, so getting to the next month, we've got another lot of pallets spawned. So one more month we'll get another full pallet, and you can see our grass is ready to cut. So pretty much the gameplay loop from now is we get a cut of grass happening, we would move these pallets of wool into the production, and then we would stockpile the fabric around here. So we probably got room for, I'd say 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe 8 pallets. So it'd be 8,000 litres. So if we check out the production, and then that'll be able to store 50,000 litres of fabric internally in the building. So basically every time you take a pallet and retrieve it, pallets will respawn. Now, what do we do with fabric? So the best time to sell fabric is in May. Okay, so what I reckon we'll do is we'll skip ahead to May, and then we'll go and load up and sell some of this stuff, and then we'll come back in. So if I was doing this for real, I'd do another cut of grass, move those pallets like I said. What we will do is we will actually move these pallets just so we can keep our production running, but we're not going to cut the grass for the tutorial purposes. But if you're playing along for real, you basically get another cut of grass underway, bale it, stockpile the feed, and then this is basically the wool gameplay loop. Okay, so wool into fabric, and you can start making some money. So we haven't made any serious money yet, but we're about to with this first fabric sale. So let's get this guy in. Okay, cool. What I'm going to do is I'm going to drive this tractor over to the farmhouse so I don't have to keep walking over there. Right, and it was definitely April and May. So let's move into April. We'll do a quick check of the production and the feed for the animals. And then we'll move into May, which we should have we should get a pallet, maybe 2 pallets of fabric per month, I'm thinking. So this will be the full first month, plus a little bit. So we're outpacing our leasing costs, which is not ideal, but okay, so we've got 2 pallets of fabric there. That's good. Okay, let's go and check on the feed. So we've still got 3 bales in there, and we've got nearly 5-6 pallets of wool. Now obviously if we had more sheep, we'd be getting more wool per month as well. But I think we got 90. Yeah. So that's 90 sheep will produce that much wool, so that's not too bad. All right, let's have a look at the production point. Okay, so we put in some more wool. We've got 834 in storage, so not quite a full pallet. Let's move into May, which was the best price, I think. No, April was the best price, so it's just shifted. Okay. All right, now what you can do is you can take this fabric and you can turn it into clothes. Okay, now clothes are $32,000 in value. All right, but basically it's not worth. So the testing that I've done indicates that it's not worth it, because the amount of fabric you need to put in, if you were to sell the fabric volume to make the equivalent amount of clothes, you're only making an extra $1,000. Okay, so the biggest jump in profitability is from wool into fabric, and then fabric into clothes, not so much. Okay, so it's best to sell the fabric now at this current state of the game. It may change in the future if they change some of the recipes for the tailor shop, but best way forward is to sell your product. Now, best prices to sell, best places to sell, you got the farmers market, Goldcrest Valley, playground. So where's the playground? Playground is that the playground maker? Yeah, so you can sell it down here at the playground. Okay, that's one place. That's a project. The other place is, where do we say? Fabric. Sell it at the wagon builder. Sell it at the tailor shop. You can also sell it at the farmers market and the warehouse. So what we're going to do is we're going to take it to the playground because it's the best price. So $17,910. Okay, now what we need is a transport trailer or a vehicle. Okay, so there's a couple of different options here. So we can go a basic trailer like this. Okay, load your pallets on there, tow it with a tractor. Okay, which is one option. You can purchase a vehicle. Okay, so if we go into cars, the ute, that'll take 2 pallets potentially. If we go into trucks, something like the Lizard Dragon with a flatbed, Okay, that'll take a couple of pallets in the back. Obviously they need to be loaded up. This guy here, another flatbed, pretty much the same deal. Trailers on the other hand, so there's a Profiliner, which is a semi-trailer. So if we go into here, semi-trailers, this is a curtain sider. So basically the curtains on the left and the right will open up and you can load a lot more pallets in there. Okay, or you can go, I think there's another basic trailer somewhere, so maybe in the MISC category. So a little trailer like this. Okay, so it just depends on what you want to do. Now obviously there's benefits and advantages to going one way or the other. I mean, probably the cheapest way is the FarmTech flatbed trailer. So that was in Baling Technology, I believe. Bale Transport. So this guy here. But the problem is it's not very maneuverable. So if you need to get into tight access areas, it's a bit of a problem. Now if you want to have a dedicated vehicle, I would recommend potentially the Lizard Dragon. So let's see if we can... So that's in trucks, was it? So yeah, and the Ute can do it, but just say you just have to do more trips. Or you can use the Profiliner. But the Lizard Dragon's a good option. Okay, so if we go standard extension, bale trailer. So I would just go standard, no trailer hitch. Let's list that. Because obviously if we go a semi-trailer, we need a prime mover, so a truck and a trailer combination. Whereas this guy allows us to do, where is it? Allows us to have a vehicle and then obviously transportability in one. Okay, so that's the benefit to that. So let's head back to the farm. Now I'll show you why I chose this primarily over the flatbed. And it's basically for access reasons. So when we go down to the playground maker hall, you'll see what I mean. So let's head back to the farm and then we'll come back in. Alright, so back to the farm. I'll just sped up time to get out of this rain. So what we can do is we can basically drop the sides of this trailer. Okay, so we've got the left side, the right side, and the back. Okay, now I think the right side's there. So that allows us to basically store the pallets and push against it on the back side of the trailer, which is or the tray, which is a little bit easier to manage. So let's jump in this guy, and we'll go and get these pallets loaded up, and we'll take them down to the playground maker hall. Now, what you can do is you can try and load 2 pallets at once. So if you spread your forks out, make sure you line yourself up correctly. Okay, didn't really do a good job here, but you kind of get the idea. Especially when you've got more pallets there to push against, particularly behind. You can sort of condense your operation, make it a little bit quicker. Okay, so we just load this up. And as you get a little bit more efficient with your stacking and bale handling ability, or if you choose to use this liftable bale and pallets mod, you can basically pop that in there, jump into the vehicle, tie down straps, so R1 and R3, get the red straps on. Okay, and then we're going to close our side. Now I've already tagged the playground maker, or the playground build project. So let's head down there, get this stuff delivered and sold. So let's throw a time lapse on, I'll drive down there, and we'll come back in. Alright, here we are at the playground maker. So basically this is 2 productions in one. So the playground is here, right? So this is a community building project where you just bring materials and then a playground is built. Okay, so what is this? So the required materials wood beam, planks, long, and rope. So that's gonna increase the project progress. However, it functions also as a sell point, hence why we can sell the fabric here. Okay. Now this guy here is a production point, which is the playground maker hall. So if we bring planks and planks along here, that'll make toy tractors, which are these guys over here. Okay, and then it sells them once they're made every 2 months for like 100 grand. So it's pretty lucrative. But let's just jump into this guy, head over to the trigger, the sell point trigger, drive over the top, hit R3, and then we've sold our product. So it's 54 grand for 3 pallets of fabric. So this is obviously on easy economy, so we are getting a little bit more money than we would on normal and hard, for example. But that's basically our first sale of fabric. Okay, so 50 grand, not too bad. Now if we head back to the farm quickly, so pretty much the loop is now keep feeding our spinnery, keep producing fabric over the year. Now you can sell fabric at any time, but if you want to obviously get the best price for it, you want to sell it in April or May, or whenever the best price is. It's usually around this time, okay? And then over a course of a 12-month period, you're going to have a pretty good stockpile of fabric here, sitting ready to go to be sold, okay? Now, that's pretty much sheep, how to start a sheep farm, and wool production with a focus on sheep. Obviously, the sheep, we can expand our sheep operation. So, for example, here, if we wanted to, we could put in a second sheep barn, all right, to service this spinnery. We could potentially turn this entire field into a sheep barn, and then what I would do is potentially put those wool pallets so they can be pushed into that production point, and then have a grass field over here that we bale grass from. You could also look to purchase more land, so there's adjacent fields we can increase our grass production on. We can also start to, well, you can sell the sheep, okay, so you can breed them and sell them. That's another profit stream. Or you could look to do clothes, but I don't think clothes is that lucrative, so that's not something I would recommend. Another jumping off point from here is what you can do is you can take the grass that you've got and turn it into hay, all right, so by tedding it and sell the hay as an additional product. You can also do silage, okay, so grass can be, well, these grass bales that we've created over here, when you bale them up, they can be wrapped and turned into silage, and you can create silage bales which can then be sold, or you can stockpile them for animals. You can also add goats, okay, so goats basically take the same food inputs as sheep, so you've got the infrastructure set up to produce grass as much as you want. Obviously we're using just this field here, but like I said, we've got field 2, so you could put your goats in down there, start stockpiling goat milk, and then put that into a dairy production, or just sell the goat milk. So I think goat milk is, yeah, it's not too bad. So peak of 9,537. Then you can bottle it for 6,861. You can also get goat cheese. There's a whole number of things you can do. What's the price of hay? So hay's pretty cheap, so it's probably not really worth selling. It's probably better for stockpiling and feeding it to your cows. So you can start to sort of see that you've got, you know, opportunities to sort of jump out from here. Now, if you wanted to go further in on the spinnery, you could branch off into cotton. Okay, so we can start feeding our. So if we go into the production point, obviously we're only inputting wool currently, but if you started to do cotton, right, cotton's pretty expensive to get up and running. But once you get cotton underway, you know, the amount of cotton that you can store in the production point is, you know, 4 times the amount of wool. Okay. And then you can start really, really ramping up your fabric production, which is going to further sort of increase your profitability. So that's pretty much it. That's pretty much sheep. Pretty straightforward. Like I said, you can add more barns. You can't really increase the size of this barn once it's placed. However, what I would probably do now is I would branch off into cotton. I'd get the cotton supply happening, put that into this guy, get the fabric cranking, start selling the fabric, and then probably what I would look to do is either add goats or even cows. So cows, obviously we can use the hay, so we've got the grass field, we've got the ability to easily turn that into hay, okay? So it gives you different options to sort of branch off from. So that's pretty much it. So let's move on. So there you have it, guys. Quick little intro / guide on how to set up a sheep farm. So there's many different ways you can set up a sheep farm. This is just one way that I like to do. Hope you found this video helpful. If you have, leave a like on it. If you've got any questions, leave a comment below. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.